Welcome back, book nerds. Thank you for watching. This is my prologue discussion for Stormlight 5. Now, this is the unofficial, unfinished prologue that Brendan uploaded to Tor.com. So I want to make a video on it because it had some really important things. But first off, Mistborn spoilers. So if you haven't read Mistborn, you don't want to be spoiled on it because the book isn't out yet, then just don't watch the video. Moving forward. Okay, here we go. Like every prologue in all of Stormlight, this is Gavilar's story. And if you go back and you realize that all the prologues are Gavilar and all the epilogues are Wit or Hoyd. So, starting off, we are at Night of Gavilar's death. You all remember it. It's a prologue from Way of Kings. Szeth comes to assassinate him. And speaking of Way of Kings, so that was the first prologue of Way of Kings. The first prologue of Gavilar was his death. Words of Radiance was Yasna's point of view of Gavilar. Oathbringer was Eshonai's. Rhythm of War was Navani. So this prologue starts off, Gavilar is talking with Stormfather, talking about their visions and the last desolation. In said vision, Gavilar snatches up honor blades. Jezreel's honor blade and Chenarich. Totally not saying that name right, but some of these names. Now, this is the first time that her name has appeared in written form. There are other forms that her name's appeared through the Stormlight Archive. I mean, one of them is a curse word. But this is the first time that Brent actually wrote out her full name. So excuse me if I'm not getting it quite right. So at this point, Gavilar discards one of the honor blades, and this really offends Stormfather. There are certain interactions with Gavilar and Stormfather where Stormfather is kind of taken back by him. So he hasn't quite made up his mind about Gavilar, if he wants to commit to Gavilar or not. See, Gavilar wants to become a herald, a god. Gavilar is lying to Stormfather, trying to convince him that he's better than he actually is. But really, he's a piece of crap. Gavilar keeps saying the words, but it's not about the words. It's about your intent. It's about your heart. And he's just not good enough. So the next part of the prologue is a conversation with Dalinar. So this clearly is jumping back. This prologue clearly jumps back and forth through all these little conversations. So Dalinar demands to know what he's doing with the Parshendi. And Gavilar knows his brother. He knows his triggers. He knows how to distract him. So, of course, he brings up the murder of Dalinar's wife. And Dalinar immediately goes into drinking heavily. He knew what he was doing to his brother. He knew that bringing up the murder of his wife, bringing up Dalinar's thrill, he knew what that would do to him. Of course, he started drinking heavily. The Stormfather likes Dalinar. The Stormfather thinks Dalinar has potential. Gavilar hates this. Stormfather tells Gavilar that Dalinar has potential that he just doesn't see. Okay, now we have Thydacar. So here, if you haven't stopped watching yet and you don't want Mistborn spoilers, move away. Because we have confirmed now Thydacar is Kelsier. So Thydacar is not happy with Gavilar in this scene. And he really feels that Gavilar sort of betrayed him here. So Kelsier is not really here at this moment. Kelsier is still on another world, but Thydacar is sort of his avatar. He's projecting himself through a Sion. That's why when you look at Thydacar, he's kind of blue here, because it's just an avatar. It's an image of Kelsier. So Thydacar warns Gavilar here that he would not like to be his enemy. And he would not like it if he was his enemy. So to be careful. And I really like Kelsier as the bad guy. Because let's be honest, in the Final Empire, Mistborn, if Kelsier didn't have the Lord Ruler to war against, he would have been the bad guy. Because Kelsier is not a good person. I mean, we all love Kelsier. I love Kelsier. He's a fantastic character. But he's always had the potential to be the bad guy. After that, Gavilar really starts thinking about Navani and how much he misses things. Not miss her per se, but missed their kinship of scheming together because they did a lot of stuff together. After that, Restairs and Nail showed up. If you recall Restairs, that is the man that Thydakar is looking for. So Gavilar wants to be a herald and he wants to bring back the Voidbringers, but this is not a good thing because he's hoping to get their power. So after talking with Nail, he really feels that the Stormfather lied to him. Now he has a conversation with Navani. And if you remember Navani's prologue, you get her point of view of this conversation and you really understand how rude he was to her because he's not a nice person. Okay, now we're at the feast, and in the feast, Gavilar sneaks away several times to have conversations with Stormfather. And so this is the first part of one of those conversations. In this conversation, they talk about Thydakar and what Thydakar is up to. They talk about Baha in the Mitorium and that she is trying to replace the gods with Voidbringers and give them form so they can fight for themselves. But it didn't work. So it all fell apart like a deck of cards. And the side effect of what they did created the Parchment. Okay, so here the Stormfather is growing more and more impatient and more suspicious of Gavilar's intentions. There's things about him that he just doesn't trust Gavilar. For good reason. Okay, enter Taravangian. Gavilar told Taravangian that the desolation is near. Stormfather warned Gavilar that Eshonai was coming. Now in Eshonai's prologue, we know that Gavilar gave her a Stormlight Sphere, telling her to bring said sphere to the leaders known as the Five. The idea of bringing the old gods back was not something that Eshonai wanted. Not even a little bit. So Eshonai went back to the Five, and they sent Seth to assassinate Gavilar. See how we're jumping all over the place, back in time and forward in time, back in time through all the different prologues? Yeah, it's done really well. And here the Stormfather admits that Gavilar is not the one that he truly needs. Though this prologue, it comes back to Gavilar's intent. He wants to say the words, but it's not about the words. It's about how freaking crappy he is. Now, one of the heralds here dies, and just maybe the herald was Shallan's mother. Chenaranech. Just the names, man. Well, she has red hair. Like Shallan. Shallan's mother has red hair. And the timing is weird. If you think about when Gavilar died, and you think about when Shallan's mother died, they died at exactly the same time. Their deaths totally line up. Okay, so we get a lot about Szeth here. We get a lot about the assassination of Gavilar, who hired him, why he was there, why they wanted him dead. We know that he was sent by the Five. And here, Gavilar failed Stormfather, and Stormfather vowed to never trust a member of his family ever again. This is really interesting, because Stormfather bound to Dalinar. Much later, he vowed to never trust anyone from his family, but yet, he bound to his brother. Okay, here Navani swears to protect his legacy. Navani doesn't particularly like her husband, but she promised to protect everything that he built and to keep his name alive. She also swore never to divulge his true self, because she didn't really want people knowing that he's a piece of shit either, right? Okay, that is the end of the prologue. So I'm really eager to see what the actual prologue is going to be in Stormlight 5. Read fantasy.